More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. 4:15 is the time in the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios. We'll put the Sixers talk on the back burner for just a little bit. Bob Cooney will join us in the 5 o'clock hour today at 5:15. But now it's time to talk some Phillies. They're getting ready for the start of the season, and I know expectations aren't high for the Phillies, but we always have high expectations for a man that covers the Phillies, and he works for MLB.com, and that is Todd Zolecki, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Todd, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, and how are you?
No problem. I'm doing well, thanks.
Well, thank you for coming on. So I was looking at the over-unders for the Phillies. I was taking a brief glance at the over-unders for the entire league this year, and I knew the number for the Phillies was going to be under 500. 72.5. How do you look at that over-under line for the Phillies this year?
You know, I personally would take the over on that, but I think they're going to be in the 74, 75 range, 76 range. They're somewhere over that. They won 71 games last season with the worst offense in baseball, with a bullpen that struggled quite a bit, and I think they really have nowhere to go but up offensively. I think the bullpen's going to be a little bit better, and I think if the rotation, some of these young guys they have in the rotation, assuming they stay healthy, should be a little bit better. So for that reason, like I said, 72.5. I think they'll be a little bit better than that, but not much better than that.
You look at that rotation, and it's a rotation that I understand a lot of guys are coming back from injuries, and now you have two veterans also in that rotation as well. How do you evaluate this rotation as we get closer and closer to opening day?
Well, it has potential for sure. When you talk about those three young guys, Jared Eichhoff, I like a lot. He's kind of a workhorse. He's not an ace. He's not a number one. He's maybe not a number two, but he's a very solid number three, and every single team needs solid number three guys. He had a ERA around 3.6, 3.7 last year, and I think he's got the potential to be better. Vince Velasquez, I think he learned a lot last year. He says he learned a lot last year, and if that is true and he can apply some of that, he's got great stuff. And then Aaron Nola, to me, is a bit of a question mark because he finished the season last year on the disabled list. But in his first 12 starts, in my opinion, he was a very strong candidate to the NL All-Star team, and then he started to struggle after that, and then the elbow injury put him on the DL. If he can get back to that, those are three really solid starters. And then you go to the two veteran guys, Jeremy Hellickson. If you can kind of repeat what he does last year, he's going to be excellent trade bait come July 31st, and then the same thing for Clay Buchholz. If he can pitch like he did the second half of last season with the Red Sox, he also could be a trade candidate come July 31st.
I think the ace point is a great point that you just made, because I look at those young guns and I try to figure out who is going to be that ace one day. It sounds like that you would lean more towards Nola in that ace kind of role.
Yeah, I think, yes. If everybody is healthy, and again, you don't know who's going to be healthy
Sure.
and who's going to pan out of that, but if everybody does what they're supposed to do, Nola is probably the best pitcher of all those young pitchers, and that includes Zach Eflin, Jake Thompson, Alec Asher, Ben Lively, Nick Pivetta, all some of these younger pitchers that are coming up through the system. He's probably the best if you talk to scouts. But, he's not a true number one in the Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw sense. So I think down the road, if the Phillies start spending money, they might need to go out and get that quote-unquote ace. But I think definitely at the moment, Aaron Nola is the guy that could kind of lead this rotation into that next phase of the rebuild.
Now, we know the Phillies aren't ready to compete yet, and it's all about the future. But when you look at this team, because usually this time of the year is when there's a lot of optimistic people, but we know the reality with this team. Just as someone that's around there each and every day, what are those positive big storylines right now? Because I'm still searching for them.
Yeah, there's some optimism down here. You're right. I think the storylines or the reasons to be optimistic, I guess, if you're a Phillies fan and you're searching for something, is Maikel Franco. This is a big year for him. He struggled a little bit last year. He hit 25 home runs and 88 RBIs. As everybody knows, home runs and RBIs, don't necessarily mean a lot in terms of overall production. He's got a lot of talent. Again, kind of like Vince Velasquez, he says he figured some things out. Matt Stairs is really optimistic that he's going to be able to put some things together and have a much better year offensively. J.P. Crawford, he's one of the top prospects in baseball. He struggled a little bit last year in AAA after the promotion from AA Reading, but I think he might have put a little bit too much pressure on himself, might have been thinking a little bit too much of the big leagues. If he can just improve himself a little bit offensively, he's really been an on-base machine in the minor leagues. If he can improve just a little bit offensively and get that promotion to the big leagues, I think the Phillies are going to have a pretty solid shortstop going forward. And the other reason to be optimistic, I guess, or to find a reason to be optimistic, is they do have a lot of starting pitching depth. And, if some of those guys pan out and just become solid starting pitchers, the Phillies started 24-17 last year because they get simply decent starting pitching, despite the fact they have a terrible offense. So if they can just get decent starting pitching from all these guys, they have a chance to be pretty competitive. And that's when, they start adding the more high-priced guys, bring in some big bats to help out the lineup down the road.
Todd Zolecki with us right now, covers the Phillies for MLB.com. Todd, since you brought up Maikel Franco, we know that lineup last year was horrific, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. The Phillies in the offseason, they bring in Howie Kendrick, they bring in Michael Saunders. Just how about adding those veteran presence to the lineup to try to help out Franco and also Tommy Joseph?
Yeah, I think that's going to be big. I can see Howie Kendrick hitting second right now, and I can see Michael Saunders, hitting, if Maikel Franco's going to hit, say, fourth, say Odubel Herrera hits third, Maikel Franco fourth, you can hit Michael Saunders fifth, Tommy Joseph sixth, however you want to do it. But I think having two veterans in that lineup is going to take a little bit of pressure off these guys. I do think that Maikel Franco last year started to feel too much pressure to be the man, and things kind of snowballed on him, and then he started seeing his average dip, and then he starts maybe swing a little bit harder. Matt Stairs is really making a concerted effort to tell these guys, don't give at bats away. So if you don't like your pitch, if you're looking for a certain pitch, fastball away, for instance, and it's fastball in, don't swing at the pitch. And I think these guys seem to be getting that message because it's been repeated to me a lot. So in the case of a guy like Maikel Franco or any of these other young guys, I think some of these older guys can help because they've been through the battles before.
Two more everyday players that I'm curious to hear your expectations about. We know there's no more shadow with Ryan Howard, and Tommy Joseph is now the guy at first base, and then Hernandez at second base. What are your expectations for those two guys this year?
Well, for me, I've said this to a few people. Like, I think Tommy Joseph is the most intriguing guy going into the season in that lineup because he did hit 21, 22 home runs last season in the limited role. So you sit there and you go, okay, can Tommy Joseph really hit 35, 40 home runs in an everyday role, or was he successful because he was protected a little bit? So we're going to get the opportunity to find out, and so that's intriguing. But what's also intriguing is, boy, if he can all of a sudden be like a 35, 40 home run guy, what a huge bonus for the Phillies. They don't have to look for a free agent first baseman now. They have their first baseman. So he's going to be kind of fascinating to watch. He's going to get every opportunity to succeed. There's no Darren Roth in the system. There's no Tommy Joseph in the system. Let me put it this way. There's Rhys Hoskins in AAA, but early on this season, I think they're going to give Tommy Joseph a chance. There's not going to be that first baseman back up on the big league roster that's going to take playing time away from him. So he's going to get a shot. And for Cesar Hernandez, he's also interesting because he finished the season with a 371 base percentage. Can he replicate that? He came into camp adding about 15 pounds of muscle because I felt like he might have, he wants to stay strong throughout the course of the season. He has a chance to become an elite second baseman if he can maybe pick up where he left off. He hit over 300 the second half of the season. So two very, very intriguing guys. If both of those guys do what they kind of did last year in the second half, the Phillies, offense should be much, much better.
On the way out with Todd Zolecki, who covers the Phils for MLB.com. Just since we've mentioned some of those younger guys, you look at the big group of four Hoskins, Nick Williams, Alfaro, and J.P. Crawford. I know you mentioned with Hoskins that it's going to be Joseph's job, but how far away do you think we are with the other three, and Williams, Alfaro, and J.P. Crawford?
Well, I think Crawford is probably the closest, and I say that because he has an ability to get on base. Even struggling last year in AAA, his on-base percentage is .323, almost 50 points higher than Freddie Galvis's, where he had the lowest on-base percentage in baseball last year. So I think he's going to put a lot of heat on Freddie Galvis. Freddie's going to have to come out really hitting the ball well. Nick Williams, he was kind of up and down last year. He had a really bad August. Matt Steers is really excited to work with him. He's working on his swing a little bit, changing a few things. He thinks he's going to help him with pitch recognition and controlling strikes a little bit. In terms of his promotion, I think that depends on what happens with Howie Kendrick and Michael Saunders. Do they get traded before the July 31st trade deadline? I think the Phillies will be motivated to do that, certainly if Nick Williams is hitting the ball well. And Jorge Alfaro, I think they can be a little bit more patient with him. He's still very raw. He missed some time 2 years ago with an injury. He played pretty well last year in Reading, but I think the coaches and everybody seem to think that he needs more time. And with Cameron Rupp kind of gets, I don't want to say, I guess he gets slighted a little bit. He actually had a pretty good year offensively. He was like fourth among all qualified catchers in slugging percentage. So there's not an immediate rush for guys like Jorge Alfaro up here. So they can be patient with him. So I think Crawford, I would order it. Crawford, then Williams, then Alfaro, and then Rhys Hoskins. If he plays well, he could be up in September, certainly.
Now, I know this team, they don't have high expectations this year, but I've always been a fan of Pete Mackanin and the job he's done in Philadelphia in a tough situation. It kind of reminds me a little bit what Terry Collins had to go through in New York, and then Terry was able to see the good days in New York, and that's a team that has potential to win a World Series this year. In terms of Mackanin, though, his contract's up, but we know that. What does he have to do if he's going to keep his job at the end of the year?
I think for him, certainly, you don't want to take a step back in wins and losses, but, even if they say they only win 75 games or something like that, I think they want to see continued development from those young players. They don't want a situation where the only reason why the Phillies won 75 games is because Ellickson, Buchholz, Saunders, Kendrick, and Joaquin Benoit, performed well. They want to see these young guys continue to take a step forward. So I think ultimately he's going to be judged on that. Mike Alfranco, Tommy Joseph, Cesar Hernandez, Hector Neris, Velasquez, Nola, Eichhoff, those types of guys. If those guys continue to develop, then I think he's got a shot to have his option picked up.
And finally, before we let you run, as we're talking to Todd Zolecki, give me a few teams that you like this year, really, in the AL and NL that could be these potential World Series teams.
Oh, boy. It's so hard to go. For me, the Cubs look like a dynasty in the making type of team. They were so strong last year. It's kind of hard to bet against them right now. And I don't know if that's kind of a popular pick, but they're just absolutely loaded. In the American League, I think the Red Sox should have done a lot better than they did last year, and I would really love to see that. I guess maybe I'm biased because I think a Cubs-Red Sox World Series would be a lot of fun, so I'm going to go with those two teams.
Are you more in favor of the NL East with the Mets or the Nationals in terms of who you think will be better this year?
I think the Nationals. I think this is their last kind of go around with some of these guys that they have on the roster. Every time you start thinking that one team's going to pick, nudge ahead, the other team does, and so I just think the Nationals. Like I said, they're motivated to get this done because their time is running out with some of these guys that they have on the team.
Well, Todd, we appreciate it. Enjoy the sun in Clearwater. Thank you.
Thank you.